news,
Lobbyists are fed up with politicians accepting their money and then not coming through.
opinion,
When the automated police force orders you inside, that's just them doing their job.
remix.
Even lost my job partially due to the whole global warming issue. Increase in oil prices. This guy's scared.
This is Top Story with Kelly Klass and Jill Skeen,
I've been a listener for about 20 years.
How can you make me feel better?
where the news meets your opinion. Pick up the phone and talk about it. 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, Kelly Klass and Jill Skeen.
Good morning and welcome to Top Story. And the number is what, Jill?
736-0300.
You do know that number.
How do I not know that?
I'm impressed.
I've heard it for 5.5 years.
Yeah, you should have.
Everyone should know this number.
That's right. 736-0300. We got to have a contest sometime. What's the number? Quick.
736-0300.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be careful because 733-0300 is the local printer in town. So they get, between 8 and 10, they get a lot of hang-ups.
Sorry about that.
I know, it's so funny because I use them for rotary Magic Valley printing, but they get a lot of our calls. I'm like, oh. They're like, wow, you must have been talking about something hot today because our phone kept hanging up between 8 and 10.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, coming up this morning at 8:30, we'll have Sergeant Ken Menzel with the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. He'll have a list of bad people that they're looking for. And I'm sure we'll be talking about some other stuff that's going on. At 9 o'clock, we will have Snake River Canyon jumper and stuntman, Hollywood stuntman, Eddie Braun, and Scott Truax with us.
That's right.
We'll be talking to them about what else? The Snake River Canyon jump coming up.
That's right. We'll see how they're doing.
Yeah, looks like Eddie Braun's going to be the Charles Lindbergh of the Snake River Canyon.
Because no one remembers the second guy.
That's right.
Who was the, I don't know.
Well, really. I mean,
No, it's true. It's true.
Neil Armstrong. Everybody knows Neil Armstrong was the first guy on the moon. Do you know who Buzz Aldrin was?
Yeah. The guy who said, Neil, wait, I was supposed to go first.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, why'd you cut in front of me? He was the guy.
He was behind him in just minutes, but
Wait,
he
what?
doesn't have that distinction.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people know who Buzz Aldrin is, but they don't really, I don't think, equate him with being the second man on the moon. He was just one of the Apollo astronauts.
He's like, what, are you kidding me? I can't believe you cut in line.
That's right.
That's his famous line.
You got it.
Wow.
You got it.
Bummer.
Yeah, so we'll be talking to those two fine gentlemen coming up at 9 o'clock. See how the things are going. I'm on, I subscribe to, oh boy, it's their Facebook page. And I can't, Return to the Snake River Canyon, I think is what
Return to
it
the
is.
Snake River.
And they're always putting statements and photos and everything up there. So it's kind of a good way to keep up with them. So if you want to subscribe to that, it's Return to the Snake River. I think just if you type in "Return to the Snake," you'll see it.
You'll start seeing rockets.
Yeah, that's right. The rocket's red glare.
That's right.
So very cool. We do have some other news that is going on, and it seems like when it rains, it pours.
Wow.
But we had the Ukraine shooting down the Malaysian airliner, and then yesterday there was the airplane that crashed, landing in Taiwan, killing 48 people. The AP had that one mixed up with the airplane that was carrying the 40 coffins from the victims of the Ukraine crash.
Well,
now,
when you hear about one plane crash, you just assume it's the same one. Why not?
For sure, why not?
Whatever.
Now, today, a flight operated by Air Algeria and carrying 116 people from Burkina Faso to Algeria's capital disappeared from radar early Thursday. Now, under probably normal circumstances, we wouldn't even be mentioning this here on Top Story because it's not local. But in light of everything that's been going on in the world, it does kind of raise your eyebrows,
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, they lost track of the Swift Air MD-83 about 50 minutes after takeoff from Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso.
I'm sure you're saying it properly.
Nobody will know if I'm not. That's the interesting part. But at any rate, so there you go, another plane crash.
Well, actually, then they updated it later that it crashed. Didn't I sent you that?
Yeah, it disappeared from radar, and then they've said, oh, yeah, it crashed. So
It crashed, so they have no talk of how many survivors or
right.
anything.
And it was several hours before they even made it public that the plane was missing.
Yeah, they were missing for hours, and the official...
They must be taking their cues from Malaysia.
Yeah, they're like, they're doing so well.
Yeah.
Why don't we follow their PR? I think they have the same PR guy.
They might have.
Jeez, oh man, you don't think people want to know?
I know.
So anyway, it seems like that crashed.
And then in regards to flying and commercial airlines, the Federal Aviation Administration has lifted its ban on U.S. flights in and out of Israel, which the agency had imposed out of concern for the risk of planes being hit by Hamas rockets.
I think that was pretty legitimate because one was like a mile short of the airport.
Yeah, Ben Gurion Airport.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but some of the airlines had already done that. They had already said, okay, we're not going into Israel for a while. And then later, even the FAA came out and said, okay, any U.S. flights are not going into Israel. But they have...
But El Al was still flying into Israel, which was Israelis.
Yeah, but that's not an American airline.
No, I know. They were still doing it.
Yeah.
But
the decision was effective at 11:45 p.m. last evening, so it would have been about 9:45 our time. So planes, apparently American planes are flying into Israel again.
Well, I mean, I can understand the concern. I mean, it's not like it's a big country. It's the size of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And those missiles are flying over right and left, and I'm sure they would love to get a passenger plane, and probably a lot would be from the U.S. I know this is a big travel time and tourist time to Israel. When you fly in El Al, let me tell you, you feel secure. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
That's they've never had a hijacking. And when you go down the road, the runway in New York, they have armed Israeli soldiers on each side in jeeps, escorting it down. They don't tell you when it leaves. They just tell you when to get to the airport. They don't tell you the time it's even going to take off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's never. You just have to be there
so you
2
might
hours.
So can't they kind of assume that, well, if they're telling people to be there at 10 o'clock, it's going to leave around 12?
They never post the exact time ever.
see.
They just tell you when to get there. They go through soldier will talk to you one individually, ask you questions while you're in line. They look through your suitcase, say, yeah, no. I mean, you feel pretty secure, but it's like, wow.
They
have,
probably do profiling and everything else, don't they?
Yeah, probably. They have undercover cops on the flights. I mean, they've never had a hijacking, let me tell you.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that one's so, and in New York they do have the because I was looking out the window when we took off and I'm like, wow, there's a Jeep with armed Israeli soldiers following you down the runway. Feel safe.
And then you told them that, well, my ex-husband loaned me the camera.
He
or
loaned me
whatever
the
it was.
camera. Yeah.
I'm surprised they let you fly.
My friends couldn't believe it. I was like, well, they asked me. I don't lie. I said, good thing I didn't tell them about the blow dryer. So no, they were very concerned. What is his name? Are you sure he doesn't want to blow you up? Are you sure he doesn't want to kill you? How can you be friends if you're divorced? I mean, I'm not kidding. His name is Daryl Sonnenstein. So probably if it was like Muhammad whatever, I would have not made the flight. But since he was a nice Jewish boy, they probably thought, okay.
Wow.
That's a help. No, I mean,
That
really,
is so
that was
funny.
startling. And then on the way out of Israel, they go through your suitcase.
Yeah.
They go through it.
They don't
And
just
you're
open
just
it up
standing there. Now, did you pack this? Yes. And they go through everything.
They probably find some interesting stuff.
Yeah, right.
7360300 is the number to call. Good morning. Oh, I guess they decided they weren't going to hang around. Okay, so anyway, you can fly back into Israel again from America.
You have to wonder how many people might have canceled their trips. Like, I'm not sure if that's really where I want to go. And I did hear back from my cousins. They're like, we're safe, we're fine, don't worry. Honestly, these people are just... I'm like, I'm so worried for you. Are you okay? Please let me know you're okay. No, we're fine. We send you big hugs. We did,
Well,
I'm happy. I'm happy,
when you stop
but
and think about it, they're kind of used to that stuff. It's like people calling here with big concerns because we have a snowstorm or something. It's like, hey, what are you kidding? Hey, we're fine.
I mean, they're in a bomb shelter probably every other day for how many years of their life?
On kind of the same note, my wife is friends on Facebook with a family in somewhere in Oregon. And he's married to a Jewish lady, and apparently, and you've never told me this story before,
What?
but apparently teenagers born into Jewish homes have a birthright trip where they can go to Israel?
I think I've heard of that. I've never done that, but yeah, I think they can do that.
Yeah, well, apparently they can because he was scheduled to leave. Their son was scheduled to leave for his birthright trip to Israel next week.
Yeah.
And they canceled it.
Yeah.
And they said that, and apparently, I don't know, I think Israel pays for it. I think the Israeli government pays for it because if you cancel out for any reason, then you go to the bottom of the list again.
Oh,
but they said that 40% of the ones who were scheduled for that trip have canceled because of this. So
it makes you wonder. And when I went to Israel, it was through the United Jewish Appeal. They send a lot of tourists, but you didn't know what your itinerary was. It was never set in stone because of what was happening. So they'd be like, okay, well, today we're not going to go here because there's fighting. Or when I was there, when we got to Jerusalem in the afternoon, in the morning, they had a shooter on a bus and shut down the entire city.
Wow.
And so you never really know. And then we had to take bulletproof buses. We went into Jericho, but you're like, okay, it's but they do not want any tourists to get hurt at all because their tourism dollars will dry up.
Right.
I mean, it's a big deal. They get a lot of money from the American Jews who visit and everything else. But anyway, I don't blame them. I would be a little nervous to go there. Yeah. But my cousins are fine. No worries. We're safe. Send big hugs.
I'll stop worrying about them then.
I know. Oh, my good night.
An increasing number, I thought this was funny, an increasing number of businesses are opting out of staying virtually connected and are reverting back to old technologies to avoid being spied upon. The move has led to a surge in typewriter sales in Germany.
I miss the typewriter.
There are some things that can just be better done with a typewriter. I don't care.
It looks so...
you want to just type on one little label? You can do it with a typewriter. It makes you just
want to write, a book. You just see a typewriter and you're like, yes, let me write the great American novel.
German typewriter makers such as Banderman and Olympia have cited climbing sales amid NSA spying revelations.
And that's just from the German government.
That's right. We sell
Angela Merkel.
We sell about 10,000 typewriters every year. Banderman manager Rolf Bonnen told the local, "We've seen an increase because Brother left the market in 2012." He added, "The company's sales jumped by 1/3 over last year since 2012."
Yeah.
So looks like.
I'm sure they're going to go back to landlines too. Angela Merkel's phone was bugged, and I'm sure they're quite upset.
I wouldn't be surprised. But
I think it's kind of cool.
They've always said that's the crash-proof computer is the typewriter or a pad and pencil.
We just watched You Got Mail again, and they were using typewriters. Her boyfriend was a writer, and we're like, that looks cool. Why not?
I don't know that the typewriter will ever totally leave us, because there are some things that are just made for a typewriter.
I know.
I just want to type one label.
I like a typewriter. So. But remember the papers in college. Oh, I would have done so much better if I had a computer.
I know.
I would have been so much smarter.
I hear you. 7360300, the number to call. We'll be right back. 7360300 is always the number to call here on Top Story. And with July just about to come to a close, today's like what, the 24th?
So depressing.
So we got 7 more days left in July.
Where did July go? Has anyone found July?
That means that you only have 7 more days to take advantage of the huge blowout sale at Bish's RV on Starcraft and Dutchman travel trailers. Plus the $1,000 in parts and accessories that you will receive with your new travel trailer purchase. So I would, and there's still a lot of summer yet, and there are many more summers to come. Mm-hmm. So you really need to get down to Bish's RV, and see their Starcraft and Dutchman travel trailers, and get one and go camping and have a good time. Live life a little bit. Come on, And they can help you do it. They are the largest RV dealer in the state of Idaho with 4 stores. One of them is at the Curry Crossing between Twin Falls and Filer on Highway 30. That's Bish's RV. And as you're speeding to and from your camping location, keep this in mind that even though the state legislature signed off on an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit, and even though the Idaho Transportation Department okayed it, drivers have to wait until the new speed limit signs are in place before speeding up that extra 5 miles an hour.
Have we not talked about this? Like, what
I know.
are they catching people now? Like, what's now that they're going 80 normally? Now they're being pulled over?
No, I don't think so.
Before they weren't?
I don't think so. But if you're going over 80, you probably are. So that probably means most of the people from Utah are getting pulled over. But anyway, crews are scheduled to start replacing the signs this morning on rural stretches of Interstate 84, 86, and 15. Now, there are some places where the speed limits will not change through the Treasure Valley. You know how you enter into Boise and it drops to 65? That's going to remain in through the Caldwell area and some stretches of freeway near Idaho Falls and Pocatello, and portions of I-90 that run through North Idaho won't see a speed limit change either. But so I'm looking for I-84 out here north of town to be at 80 miles an hour later today, if not already. So there you go.
You know how I feel on this topic.
I do.
We're just so flush with money. It was just a ridiculous thing. They have nothing better to do, but they want to say they did something during the legislative session.
7360300. Good morning. You're on Top Story.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's kind of funny, Jill, that you just said that we know how you feel on that topic. We know how you feel on every topic.
Isn't that nice? I'm very transparent, aren't I?
You're very straightforward, which is refreshing.
Well, thank you.
I've been thinking a lot about the story you told this week about the complaining.
Yes.
And I've been looking around at people. I used to complain a lot about my lot in life because my retirement isn't what I dreamed. And so I've been looking around at a lot of people who have it really bad. But instead of switching riffs with the band, I went back to the old thing they did years ago with, I think it was when you swore, but you have a Band-Aid, rubber band on your wrist, and when you do something that you don't want to do, you snap it.
Ooh, okay.
And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And you just topped it off this morning, Jill, with talking about your cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was thinking about the Holocaust victims.
Mm-hmm.
When they interview them, they tell their story, but you never once hear them say, poor me.
Mm-mm.
It's just the facts, and I endured it, and I lost family. But you never hear them say, we don't know why it was us. And, they just got through it. And, I mean, Corey ten Boom, her story.
Yep.
And so thank you for just topping that off for me this morning.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Well, that's so nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and thanks for
Thanks
calling
for the
and
call.
saying that.
Appreciate
It's
that.
nice when people say something nice. It's easier to say something mean and ugly.
Speaking of that, we want to thank the lady who found her dog.
Oh, yeah, Linda Howard.
Linda Howard, that's right. She brought us cookies yesterday.
She did.
Little squirrel cookies, and they were delish.
I called her afterwards to thank her, and she says she likes to decorate cookies. She couldn't find dog cookies, but she could find squirrel cookies, so she decorated them. But it was very sweet of her.
They were very good. Good morning, Top Story, and you're on the air.
Yes, I wanted to touch on something on that Israeli, what's going on in Israel right now. I think what's really sad about it is that when they kidnapped those 3 Israeli boys and they killed them, then you got extremes on the other side where they kidnapped that 15-year-old Palestinian boy and beat him to death and burned him alive. I think the thing that's really sad about this, you got some really evil extremes on both sides, and the whole thing is just really sad, and it seems like it's escalating.
Yeah, it's awful. And, the thing of it is Hamas could just stop firing rockets, abide by the ceasefires. They've had 2 already. I don't know if they're thinking about 3rd. It's like, your people are suffering. Israel's retaliating. Why do you continue to shoot rockets? The U.S. would not put up with that if they were landing in New York or in Boston. Israel shouldn't put up with it, and Hamas has total control over it, and they enjoy the publicity. They enjoy their people are being killed, and they enjoy that the international community, there are now signs in France and gas Jews. Terrible anti-Semitism, and this is what they've wanted, and they've succeeded in the PR realm, and it's awful.
The tide of humanity is turning, ladies and gentlemen, and
they've
is
done
not
this
for
for a
the
long
better.
time.
We have Sergeant Ken Menzel next with the Twin Falls number to call here this morning on Top Story. We have Sergeant Ken Menzel with us from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good
Doing
morning.
well. Now, you brought some bad people with you.
I did.
I mean, not in studio,
Well, okay,
but
not the people themselves, but you are looking for some bad people.
Yes, I brought 2 people with me today to get out there and.
His imaginary friend.
That's right.
I know. They're so nice, Ken.
Actually, I would hope that somebody would help us find them so that I can actually bring them with me to jail.
Good. Who are they?
And the first one is Kevin Felder. His last name's spelled Felder. And Kevin has a $30,000 warrant for aggravated battery.
Ooh.
He was born in 1983. He has brown hair, or brown eyes, black hair. He's about 30 years of age. He's 5'8" and 180 pounds. Kevin is also African American. So anybody who knows where Mr. Felder is at, Crime Stoppers, that number 732-5387. Give us a call. We'd like to know where he's at. And
All right, you could make some money.
absolutely. Yeah.
What was that number again?
732-5387.
5387. That's the money number.
You write that down every time, you know.
I do. Well, in case someone calls after the show or breaks, people do that.
Yes, they
you
do.
You do know that, don't you, Kelly? And it's
Well,
a
I
good
just
thing
thought
I write these things down.
You should know it by now because you write it down every week.
Well, we have a lot of numbers over the shows. I don't remember all the time. I remember the dispatch number, though. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah,
to also
911 is pretty hard to beat.
No, 7351911. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you forget the Crime Stoppers number, the 732-5387 number, 735-1911, that works as well. That's really easy to remember.
It is.
All right.
Our next bad person is Tyra Buck Contreras, and she's from the Twin Falls area. She was born in 1992. She's about 21 years of age. She's 5'3", 130 pounds, blue eyes and brown hair. She's got a couple of warrants.
What did she do?
$25,000 for possession of a controlled substance.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
The drugs.
The drugs.
It's the drugs.
It's bad
ruins their
area.
lives.
It does.
Is it getting any better?
Never. No. Some people will refer to that as job security.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem that will, I think, forever plague whatever community you're in. It's just a matter of where to go to find it. But yeah, it's rampant in Twin Falls County.
Is it still meth, the biggest drug thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
If it's rampant, we hardly ever hear of any drug raids.
We had one yesterday.
Oh,
I can't talk too much about it because it's an active, open investigation. But our sheriff's office, I wasn't. No, I was the supervisor on duty, so I knew what was going on just in case something went on that wasn't good. I could get the appropriate resources there to take care of it. But yeah, we had a really successful drug raid yesterday. Things went well there.
Was it a lab or what was it?
No, it wasn't a lab. They just seized some product inside. But our narcotics guys, our detectives are very busy. There's never a lack of information coming into the sheriff's office. There's always something that they're working on. And any information, if you see your next door neighbors with cars that frequently come and go in the middle of the night, stop.
That's a sign?
That's a sign. 2 minutes and gone. 2 minutes and gone.
Yeah.
A lot of people are good to call in those license plates for us, and we start looking at those license plates and start getting some pattern traffic there. And
is that how you got these guys?
Yeah.
Did they get money, the people who called in?
Oh, no. We got those guys, just our own deputies were able to see that traffic pattern and some other investigative resources that we use to try and figure out what's going on, and we ended up having a successful day yesterday.
Well, that's excellent. And I suppose a lot of people get frustrated. I've heard when people call the police department and say, hey, we got people dealing drugs down the street, but it seems like nothing ever happens. But they have to build a case. They've got to do some investigation and make sure it's not just somebody who works at night coming home at the same time every night.
Right. We just can't waltz in and flash our badges and walk through the front door and say, hey, we're here. Show us this bad stuff you've got.
At least in Idaho.
I was going to say, in New York, they seem to do it pretty well.
I know. That's why I said at least that way in Idaho.
I know. But do you see that people get arrested over and over again? I mean, once you see someone who's busted for drugs, obviously they have a problem. I mean, meth, we've heard that once you try it, really you get addicted on the first time, or it can change your brain chemistry right away. What happens? Is there drug rehab things can they overcome this?
There's drug court, and drug court is actually a very successful program in Twin Falls County. Judge Bevan and Rich New and several other members of the courts sit on that, and there are a lot of success stories.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is a higher recidivism rate, and you do see a lot of repeat people coming back. And you're right. Methamphetamine primarily does alter things inside of your head. It does alter some of that chemistry that goes on, and until people can get the right kind of help, sometimes it takes a major life-altering experience to make that happen.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we hope things get better, but
We're always trying. We're doing our best. And
like I say, it's job security.
don't be afraid to give us a shout out if you see something we need to take care of.
Get a license number if they can.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well,
Sergeant
be
Ken
safe out
Menzel,
there.
we
Thank
appreciate
you.
what you do. Thanks for coming in. See you
Thanks.
next time.
You bet.
This is Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. 7360300 is the number to call here on Top Story. And if you are concerned about your mail being stolen, there's actually one good way that you can fix that.
That's right. And apparently my neighbor listens because she was concerned because my mail was stolen, bless her heart. So anyway, but I have to tell you, you can go to the UPS store where they cannot steal your mail there because it's in a secure box. You can get access to it 24 hours a day. There's security cameras. It's nice, safe, secure, dry, no snow. What could be better than that, Kelly?
That's right. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They're located on the corner of Blue Lakes and Addison. The UPS store, you go and you tell them, I want to rent a mailbox. And if you tell them that Joe or Kelly sent you, you'll receive 1, 2, or 3 additional months free. And that's based on the length of the lease that you choose. But you have to tell them Joe or Kelly sent you. Otherwise, you're going to leave money on the table. No one likes to do that. While you're there, you can print, you can ship, you can package, you can copy, you can laminate. No drop-off fees for prepaid packages or mail, and you can easily design or upload your projects from any place, anytime. If you've gotten creative last night and you got this great brochure you want to print, email it to the UPS store. They'll print it for you. And they have cute little animal cards that you can buy for friends and family. Tell Charles and the crew Jill and Kelly sent you.
Coming up at 9 o'clock, we're going to be talking to stuntman Eddie Braun, the guy who's going to be attempting to jump the Snake River Canyon on September 7th.
That's right.
And Scott Truax, who's it's kind of his idea.
Well, he's the son of the man who
that's right.
who created built the original. And so anyway,
so it should be
fun. It is rocket science.
It is. That's right. But first, we're going to talk about capital punishment for a minute. The execution of a convicted murderer in Arizona yesterday took nearly 2 hours, confirming concerns that had been raised by his attorneys about a controversial drug used by the state. I find this interesting. Your kids can get into your medicine cabinet, take something, and die. We are constantly being warned, cautioned, this can kill you. And yet they have a hard time giving our convicted felons on death row anything that'll kill them under 2 hours. Okay, not that, I don't know, it sounds really crass and cold by me saying something like this, but the suffering of somebody who's been on death row for 20 years, who killed and raped and pillaged and did who knows what else to their victims, I don't have a lot of sympathy for these people, but I guess if they keep doing this, the courts are going to say, okay, no more capital punishment. It's just too cruel and unusual.
Well, it does. You do have a constitutional right not to have cruel and unusual punishment, and that's, the 8th Amendment. So, you do have that right. The state is not there to torture people. They have not found, for some reason, the drug companies who provided the drugs before are not making them, or they've run out of them.
Too many lawsuits.
And they've had some grisly deaths recently. 4, 5, 6 that's gone on in the last 6 or 7 months. This one sounds especially grisly. Over 2 hours that took for this man to die.
Under 2 hours, yeah.
Enough time for his attorneys to go out, write a brief, and file it while the man is still trying to die. And they actually wanted the state to try to revive him. They say that they have the right, if it's going badly, to try to revive the people. They need to work this out. You just cannot.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Because one judge has the answer, and I have to say I told you so, because I brought this up like a month ago, but with execution methods coming under intense scrutiny in recent months, federal judge Alex Kaczynski has a modest proposal. Bring back the guillotine, or maybe the firing squad. He says if some states and the federal government wish to continue carrying out the death penalty, they must turn away from this misguided path and return to more primitive and foolproof methods of execution, Kaczynski, a federal judge in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, wrote in a dissent released Monday. Kaczynski was dissenting from a decision made by the Ninth Circuit against reevaluating a reversal of a lower court ruling. The court had dismissed Arizona death row inmate Joseph Wood's lawsuit seeking information about the drug cocktail to be used in his execution. Rather than simply dissenting from the majority decision, Kaczynski's dissent considered alternative death penalty methods and criticized the use of lethal drugs as a misguided attempt to make executions seem humane. He said, if we as a society cannot stomach the splatter from an execution carried out by a firing squad, then we shouldn't be carrying out executions at all. If we as a society want to carry out executions, we should be willing to face the fact that the state is committing a horrendous brutality on our behalf, adding that the guillotine is probably the best but seems inconsistent with our national ethos, and the electric chair, hanging, and the gas chamber are each subject to occasional mishaps. The firing squad strikes me as the most promising. Sure, firing squads can be messy, but if we are willing to carry out executions, we should not shield ourselves from the reality that we are shedding human blood. If we, as a society, cannot stomach the splatter from an execution carried out by a firing squad, then we shouldn't be carrying out executions at all, he wrote. I have to agree. If we're going to do this, let's do it. The guillotine, contrary to popular belief, was not an instrument of torture. The guillotine was invented by a Mr. Guillotine who wanted from many centuries ago. I don't know when it was invented, but he invented it as a more humane form of execution. And the firing squad has always been a very efficient way of doing it.
Oh, I'm
Hanging
sure, but
even
those
had
are,
its
people
problem.
are shooting people too. That might have effect for the people doing the firing squad. I mean, my thing is, how come you can't perfect a drug to put them down? If we do that to our animals, what is the problem here?
That
with
is a good
human
point
beings?
also.
You know what I'm saying?
That is also
Like,
a good point, yes.
we have all these drugs we use.
With the
Chemotherapy,
technology that we have today, we can
have
surely kill somebody.
drugs
crying out
that
loud.
isolate. I mean, normal drugs kill people. Why can't you figure this out? But to do experimental stuff like this, not to let them know what drugs you're using on them, they should have a right. Have you tried these before? We've seen, 5 or 6 botched ones in the last few months. Come on, what is the problem? I don't understand that.
736-0300. Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, guys. I think there's only been 2, Jill. I might be wrong, but I think there's only been 2 that have been messed up.
That's the ones
No,
I heard of.
there's
yeah.
been more,
Yeah,
actually.
But anyway, I look at it, this guy, he made every choice in the world to murder a little lady and her dad. Okay, he beat him to death, shot him, he raped her. So he made the conscious effort. As far as I'm concerned, the death penalty in his case worked perfectly. He's dead. He's gone. If he suffered, maybe that's not the way it's set up, and if the drug cocktail ain't working quite right, then like Kelly said, let's go back to something else. They gave it a shot. It ain't working. Let's do something else. But this guy, as far as I'm concerned, it worked perfectly. He's dead, and as far as his suffering and his attorneys trying to make appeals, tough. I'll bet anything I own that little girl begged this guy to stop doing whatever he did, and I'll bet the little girl's dad begged him not to do to his daughter what he did. He probably didn't worry too much about himself, the dad. So I say no. The guy made a conscious effort. He's an animal. If they want to go to the firing squad, go to the firing squad. They want to go to the hanging, whatever. Don't matter to me, because I'm not going to be in his position, because I make a conscious effort not to hurt somebody like he did.
And that's fine, and I understand what you're saying, but the state's job is not to torture people either, and we do have a Constitution. It's the 8th Amendment, read it, and that's, it is in our Constitution. So yes, you are judged, yes, you are sentenced, but I don't think it's in there like, we can torture the heck out of someone, and it's not. Read the 8th Amendment. So I think they need to figure this out. It's been more than 2. I saw news story on it about how many, and a lot haven't been, of course, reported, but there have been more. They have to figure this out. I don't know why they can't figure it out. You're right. You can OD on whatever.
Yeah.
They had a Boston Globe reporter in her 30s. They gave her too much chemo. She died. You know, why don't you just give them too many chemo drugs?
Or morphine.
Kill them. Something. Yeah, they die on morphine. They die on this.
Yeah.
They die on, I don't know, pills and alcohol.
Unless it's some sort of a conspiracy to get us to do away with the death penalty altogether. Well, if we make them keep botching this, then we'll just have to stop doing it altogether.
Well, some states have them, some states don't. Some states have abolished the death penalty. But if you're going to kill someone by the state, I mean, the state's not in the business to kill people. I don't think you should drag it out for 2 hours when people are witnessing this, when it should be done. 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah,
Kill them.
I'm like the caller. I don't have a big problem with dragging it out, but I know that
Well, you do believe in the Constitution, don't you?
I understand that society and the Constitution won't go with that, so I'm kind of like, okay, first of all, I'm like you. Why can't we get this figured out? I mean, with technology that we have today, are you kidding me?
I know.
I mean, you can go to the store and get
Hemlock.
some there
Hemlock. They have a whole Hemlock Society. My mom's a member.
Why can't we figure this out?
Hemlock.
But beyond that, what's wrong with the guillotine? What's wrong with the firing squad? And in fact, when we hung people, there wasn't such a big deal about it either. So,
but it wasn't cruel. They were dead.
They were dead. That's right.
It didn't take 2 hours to die. Watch a man die.
It did the deed. 7360300. Top story. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. I'm totally in agreement with a firing squad or even a guillotine. And Jill, you keep talking about the Constitution when your little buddy in the White House ignores our Constitution. How dare you?
Really? I can talk about anything, and our little buddy is the President of the United States, and he's your president,
too.
We
can make another whole show
If he's ignored the Constitution, then impeach him. Instead of saying he hasn't done whatever, impeach the man if you have such a big case. You know, I'm so tired of hearing this, well, we can... You know what? If he's violated so many things of the Constitution, then impeach him. Have your party impeach him. They're already suing him. You know what? The little man in the White House is your president, too. Shame on you.
Okay, back to the firing squad here. Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. My understanding of the injections is that first is to render the person unconscious. Is that not true?
I don't know.
I think
not
that's
a
right.
Scientist.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Therefore, to me, you can't consider it undue punishment. They're unconscious. Even though the man takes a while to die, he's not totally unconscious and unaware, so it couldn't even be deemed cruel and unusual punishment because he is not aware of it.
Well, you don't know if he's not aware. No one knows. He was gasping for air for 2 hours. I don't know. His mouth moved. I mean, no one knows. It's like when you have surgery, some of those people, they do the drugs that they've actually were alive but couldn't speak because their muscles were paralyzed. Have you heard of those stories where they lived through an actual surgery? So we really don't know.
I don't understand why we can't do this either because, like you say, I mean, when you go in for a medical procedure for the same day stuff, they give you this stuff, and your doctor says, okay, count from 10 down, and you get to about 8, and the next thing you remember is they bring you back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an everyday. That's done thousands and thousands of times every day in the United States alone.
Overdose these people.
Why in the world they can't do it with somebody on death row? It's beyond me. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
The problem that they're having is finding drug companies that are willing to let the drug be used because they're getting sued left and right by people.
Correct, but I would think they use stuff on you every day.
That problem was created by people that are so set against it that they are suing and suing and suing.
You're right.
That guy's suffering is on those people's heads. It's not on anyone else's because they've made it impossible to do it in a humane way.
Oh, I don't think it's impossible.
Not if we use the guillotine or the firing squad or even hanging him. If we go back to some of the ways we used to do it, everything would work fine. But they didn't like that either. So you're right. I think
Yes,
a lot of
it's
these
all the
people who are
people.
totally against it are the ones who are perpetrating a lot of this
Oh,
stuff.
of course.
So
But you know
bringing
what?
the lawsuits.
Tell people what drugs you're using. They won't even tell them what drugs. Just tell them what's happening. Tell them you can't OD these people. What do they use for pets? What do they use for pets?
I don't know what they use. We'll have to get a veterinarian in here someday and talk to him about that. See,
How do you put
why
dogs
can't we use
down?
this stuff on people?
Can you
Okay, we're
do
going to be
this?
talking to Eddie Braun and Scott Truax this next hour here on Top Story. And welcome back to the third half of Top Story. 736-0300 is always the number to call. Welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Kelly. Same to you.
You know, one thing that we didn't mention, and I'm quite glad of, is that it did cool off a little bit.
It did. It almost feels like fall this morning.
Yeah, you're right.
Kind of brings me back to school starting, and then I get that same depressed feeling, even though I haven't been in school for years. I'm so conditioned.
Yeah, well, it's like 65 right now, and I think usually at this time it's been like in the 80s.
Yeah,
so,
it's nice.
yeah,
nice.
It feels a lot better. I was out trying to get water on the lawn yesterday and just pulling the hoses, or I do it the old-fashioned way. I still have hoses.
Yes, so do
and
we.
man, it was just beating down, So.
Poor Kelly.
I know, poor me. That's what it's all about.
We're taking up a collection to get you sprinklers.
Good,
Yeah.
That would be great. That would be
We'll
wonderful.
have a bake sale.
That voice was from Scott Truax, of course, the guy behind the Snake River Canyon jump that's coming up here very, very soon. And we also have stuntman Eddie Braun on the line with us. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning, Eddie. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, you guys. How are you?
We're doing
great.
well.
Thanks so much for talking to us.
Oh, well, listen, thank you for having Scott and I on your show.
So the time is getting closer. What's going through your mind?
Well, we're preparing we've kind of set a course when we started this whole adventure, and we're just staying the course, and things are, falling into place, and unnecessary things are falling out of place, which is great.
So at what point now, Scott, you said that you've got the cycles already, they're being painted, or
The rockets.
the
Kelly.
rockets?
It's rockets.
I know.
How are we on the rockets,
We
Scott?
got rockets 1, 2, and 3. Rocket 1 is ready for testing, or getting ready for testing. Rocket number 2 is off to paint. Thanks to a local guy, Roger Grady, for painting it for us. He's a fantastic painter. All the work is on the rockets being done right here in southern Idaho. We've Eddie's dumped about $750,000 of his own money into the local community here. Wow. And we were trying to keep it southern Idaho.
Eddie, it's nice that you've been using some local help here and help the
Well,
economy here. It's nice that you've invested in our
Truth be
community.
told, first of all, it's well north of $750,000, probably well over $1 million by the time we're done. If we're going to get factual, but anyway, not that
We
I'm
like to
counting.
keep it factual.
But who's counting?
Yeah, not that I'm counting, right? But here's the thing, and I don't know if a lot of the naysayers realize this. All things aside, in this economy, the way things are, this whole rocket adventure, sky cycle adventure, is creating real jobs for real people. And we're talking about a lot of people. We've pretty much most of it all there in southern Idaho in Twin Falls. So there's a lot of positives on this whole thing that people they're not even talking about or thinking about.
Yeah.
All they think about is, we don't want a rocket here in Twin Falls. We don't want it. It's like, yeah, but do you like people that can pay their bills? Do you like the money generated into the economy? And that's important, especially today. Talk to the people that can't pay their mortgage payments.
Yeah,
See if it's
yeah.
important.
If we're talking, say, from 1 to 10, as far as the stuff that is done compared to what needs to be done yet, where would that scale be? Are we about halfway done? Or?
We're well over halfway.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
we've got if anybody is checked out our Facebook page, Return to Snake River. I post updates all the time.
Yeah.
We've got the ramp footings poured already. In 2 weeks, K&T Steel will have the ramp fabricated and ready for erecting. So
And in 3 weeks, we're hoping to be ready for our first static test. That's where we actually strap the rocket down to the ramp and let it rip and take all the measurements of temperature, pressure, thrust, and all that. So it's going to get real exciting here real fast.
So for people who have been under a rock, Scott, your dad was the one who designed the first rocket for Evel Knievel for the first jump 40 years ago.
Right.
And you've been using the plans that he's had, although you've updated the parachute mechanism.
Yeah. In fact, as Eddie and I have said, that's why Eddie and I get along so well, is it was never about trying to promote Eddie Braun or Scott Truax. We both wanted to tell a story. I didn't even have a pilot when I started this because I wanted to show the world that if we had had one more test, that my dad's design would have worked. All we had to do was deal with the parachute issue. Eddie wanted to pay homage to his childhood hero, Evel Knievel. So, it's not about us, and it's not about, the money necessarily. It's about telling this great story of these two great men.
And Eddie, you've been carrying around a picture of or a signature from Evel Knievel since you were a little boy. Isn't that what got you into doing all your stunts?
Let's start with the fact that I've been a stunt coordinator for 30+ years in the business. I've done fairly well, thank God. And the whole reason I ever became a stuntman was when I was a kid, I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Knievel. I mean, I got through all the crowds and stuff, and I got to him, and, he had a cape on, and, it was like, touching Superman's cape. And from that point on, I didn't want to do anything else but ever be a professional stuntman. And that, here it is, 30-something years later, I'm kind of at the end of my career and very happy with it. I figure what better way than to pay homage to the gentleman that inspired me to be everything that I am professionally. So this, to me, it was never about fame or fortune. It was more about a passion and homage. In fact, my rocket, Evel Knievel's rocket had his name on the side of it, and mine will not have my name on the side. I've decided to call my rocket Evil Spirit, because it's in the spirit of Evel Knievel and all his, all the people that he inspired. I mean, how many people get to live out the dreams of their hero? I venture to guess not many people.
Right.
And here I get, at the end of my career, I get to fulfill Evel Knievel's dream of getting across the Snake River. And I would hope that I would do it with the the town of Twin Falls, the city of Twin Falls, they would embrace this as a positive, something really cool, that we're all in it together, and we get a rocket across that canyon. Because right now all the archival footage is a rocket that does not get across the canyon.
That's right.
So, Lord willing, my rocket will get across the canyon.
I think,
and we'll all do it together.
What impresses me about this deal, with you being a stuntman, all of this stuff is calculated. And all of us see on the movies every day all the amazing things that you guys do, and it's almost like, well, this is just kind of another day at work. And I know it's not, but that's what it seems that like you're making it, because we know you're going to make it because everything's calculated here.
Well, this is, if you take away all the hype and all the attention, this is another action sequence that's never been done. I was fortunate enough to be the stunt coordinator of all three of the Jackie Chan, the Rush Hour movies. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but all three of those movies were very complex. We had action sequences that had never been done before. And Jackie Chan wanted these incredibly complex stunts and sequences that took a lot of time, planning, and money. But we pulled them off. 3 successful Rush Hour movies. In my career, that's basically, we're not yahoos out there just winging it and hoping that things work. We plan these things, and just getting a rocket across that canyon is yet one more stunt sequence. It just has never been done, and, we're going to do it.
That's great. So, Eddie, this is a little different than what you've done before. Have you ever flown a rocket before in any of your stunts?
No, I've never flown a rocket before, but you know what? In a lot of the stunts I've done, I've never done those before either. So it's not, I've jumped, flew a lot of cars through the air, and I've landed pretty rough in a lot of other things. So this is just a combination of other things.
Does it make you nervous being a stuntman? I would be terrified, I think, on some of the things. Or do you guys are beyond nerves? Or do you just look at it as this is something we're doing?
I think you'd have to be foolish to say. I'm not one of those macho guys that say, "Oh man,
Yeah.
No, I'm nervous like anything else, and I like to think of myself as fairly intelligent, so I know the ramifications of what could go wrong. Of course, I'm aware of that, but that's why I do diligence and try and do things the right way, and hopefully it all works out. We've got 3 Sky Cycle rockets prepared, much like the movie business. We prepare for take 1, take 2, take 3. Hopefully out of those 3 rockets, I only need 1, but you prepare accordingly.
Yeah.
So now the jump will take place in September.
That's what we've initially planned. That's what we're hoping for, and that's what we're planning on. Now, that being said, again, we're doing something that has never been done before, and the last guy that tried it was 40 years ago, and that was Evel Knievel, the greatest, daredevil that ever was, and unfortunately that wasn't accomplished. So we're doing something that's never been done before. That being said, we all hope for that deadline of September. We're all trying for it, but I can't predict the future. I mean, is it September? Does it trickle a little over? I don't know. I'd like to get it over with, to tell you the truth. This has consumed quite a bit of my mental energy, and
Yeah. Not to mention the bank account too, I'm sure.
Excuse me?
Not to mention the bank account.
Oh my God! People have no idea how expensive it is to try and put a rocket across the canyon.
Well, it's probably even worse than most projects. No matter what project you start out with, it always winds up costing 2 to 3 times more than what you figured. I can imagine a project like this is even worse.
I'm right on budget, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah. We'll have a conversation later, Scott.
Hey, I predicted exactly what I said it was going to cost is what it's going to cost, except for that one issue.
Scott has designed,
Personnel.
he's taken his father's plans, and he's fulfilling what his father, Bob Truax, said could be done. I am carrying out what Mr. Knievel said could be done. And it is it's a good thing. Unfortunately, you have to put a monetary figure to it, and it's big, and it's high. But listen, most people, if they dream big, there's sooner or later there's going to be a check that comes that's going to have to be big too. It's just one of those things.
Sure.
Scott, how do you think you'll feel when this is over and I hope it's totally successful, everything you'd want? How do you think this will feel? Because you've been working on this for a very long time. I mean, you've been involved with your dad. I mean, how do you think you feel to have this, to accomplish this?
I'm ready to sleep for a month. It's been 14, 16-hour days for the last, full time since January of this year, but since 2012 off and on, and really I started this back in 2008, so long time. And yeah, I'm ready. We're all ready.
Is it kind of like one of those moments like you can hardly believe like it's going to happen?
No, it's one of those things that we all knew was going to happen, and finally. Yes.
Okay, well, we're going into a break here. Eddie, I know you got to run. We'll turn you loose. We'll talk to Scott a little bit longer here.
After commercial, there is one more thing I'd like to say.
Okay. All right, well, then hang tight. We'll be right back here on Top Story with Eddie Braun and Scott Truax on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. 7360300 is the number to call, and I want to say that yesterday's $100 instant winning name is Lana Strickland.
Lana Strickland, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is cave.
Cave.
C-A-V-E. Cave. So if you go to our website at newsradio1310.com, click on word of the day, type in cave. Listen tomorrow. If you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word today, you win $100.
That's how easy that is.
Half a tank of gas.
I know it.
We have Eddie Braun with us. I should say stuntman extraordinaire Eddie Braun, who's going to attempt to jump the Snake River Canyon here in September. We also have Scott Truax, who kind of started this whole project, the son of the original engineer on Evel Knievel's skyrocket. So interesting folks we got here with us. So, Eddie, I know when we went into the break, there was something you wanted to say.
Well, before I go and leave you guys with Scott, there's just two things I wanted to touch on quickly. The first one is the obvious. Everybody is saying that everybody was well aware that Fox Broadcasting originally intended to broadcast this thing and then withdrew recently. And, everybody asked, does that jump off? Does this mean that you're not doing it? And what I want people to know is, from the beginning, both Mr. Truax, Scott, not his father, and myself, we never started this thing out for the notoriety or for the attention, or naturally it's going to come just by virtue of what we're attempting to do. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't our intent in the beginning. We found along this journey there's been tons of people that are only in it for the money, only want to grub at that mighty dollar, and we never set out like that. We've run across a lot of those people, and, they've fallen by the wayside. But when you do things from the heart, when you do things from the emotion and the pride of accomplishing something, how do you put a dollar figure, how do you put a price on a fantasy? You just don't. And when your motives are pure and true, and you want to do it for the sake of doing it, not for the sake of money, not for the sake of all that stuff. Usually those are the purest forms of things that you can be the proudest of. Money comes and goes, but the pride of accomplishment and being proud of doing something, that stays with you a lifetime. Mm. And that's what both Scott and I, are hoping to do on this thing. Naturally, we would like a Fox or a broadcaster to jump aboard because obviously it defrays a lot of the cost.
Right.
But that being said, the project doesn't stand. The project stands on a rocket and two men, Mr. Bob Truax and Mr. Evel Knievel, that believe it could be done. And we're standing on those, and those are the dreams that we're going to hope to accomplish. And so the money is secondary, and all the people that jump aboard for the money and all the grubbers that hold the dollar so sacred, those are the people, usually those people, it's like chaff. They fall by the wayside, and ultimately the purest things are the ones that stand.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah. That's one point I wanted to bring up.
All right.
The second one is there is one unsung hero of this whole thing. And I hope you guys, Jill, do you guys mind if I kind of plug someone here? There's one unsung hero.
That's
and he's
fine.
A local
Go ahead.
He's a Twin Falls gentleman that I met at the beginning of all this. A gentleman named Paul Arrington. Okay?
I agree with
now,
you.
I'm leery. I'm from Hollywood, so I'm leery of anybody, especially when you tag the name attorney on them.
I know.
I get really leery when I meet because I deal with attorneys constantly, and there's snakes and sharks on the whole. But then you find the guys that are really true.
Yeah.
And I met a local attorney there, Paul Arrington. And listeners out there, sooner or later, hopefully in your life, you'll have to find a good attorney like this guy. This guy, I'll tell you what, I wish he'd moved to Los Angeles. He'd be my attorney for everything. And once this whole rocket project is done, I'm going to continue to use Paul Arrington because he's an oxymoron to the word attorney.
Aww.
This guy, I'm telling you, he's part of the team. He's not even really our attorney. He's just part of our team because he's been steadfast. He's a man of principle. He's guided and made key decisions on this whole rocket adventure that, I want to lash out at people that try and attack us. And Paul has always been the voice of reason. And Paul Arrington has always said, listen, there's a bigger picture here. So I can't recommend enough to all you local people, if you ever need an attorney, call Paul Arrington and his firm because you want to talk about a guy you can really, truly trust. That guy is part of our team. He's not even our attorney. I don't even consider him in that until I get the bill. But other than that,
he's a good guy. He really is. And he's president of our Rotary Club now, and I have the highest regard for him as well. He's a great guy.
I was going to say, speaking of bills, we're going to have to send him one now after that monologue.
That was a heck of a plug. Paul, I hope you appreciate it.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't like to plug things like that. I mean, I'm not naturally, but Paul Arrington is like he's the silent, unsung star of this whole thing. He really is because we could never have gotten this far without him.
Well, that's awesome.
That was the final thing I wanted to leave everybody with. For all you local people there, Paul Arrington, man, that guy is the bomb.
Eddie, well, we appreciate you, and we're excited for September, and we wish you the best, and hopefully we'll be talking to you guys soon.
Thank you so much, you guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys in person when I'm back there in Twin Falls.
Very good. Very good. Thanks, Eddie. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Eddie Braun, and we'll be right back with Scott Truax here in just a minute.
5 minutes later.
7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. We'll get back with Scott Truax, I guess, I don't know what we call you, the brainchild of the Snake River Canyon jump. Would that be a fair
I'm the
tag
mule
to put
that everything is
the
hitched
mule?
to.
Okay.
The mule.
I get the whipping.
There you go. There you go. Well, before we get back to Scott, I just wanted to mention that if you are in the market for a low-end honey loader, but before you plunk down the big bucks to buy one, you want to see one in operation. These are from Stanley and Company. They've handled these in the area for a long time. They've sold many of them to dairies and feedlot, large livestock operations. If you have one and you have an issue with manure on your place, you might want to consider one. And you can see one in operation before you buy. All you have to do is call Pat Hartzell at 280-1167, and he can line you up. He can make you a date with the low-end honey loader, okay? So just give him a call. Tell him that Kelly and Jill and Scott told you to call Pat Hartzell at 280-1167 with Stanley and Company, and he can fix you up.
Mm-hmm.
So honey loader's got nothing to do with bees, right?
Right.
That's correct.
Completely different
That is
kind
correct.
of honey.
Completely different.
I don't know. There
stuff.
might. Anyway, okay, we won't even go there.
No, we've already taken it to a new low.
So now
you can do that very quickly.
You have some key players in this jump coming up. Obviously, Eddie Braun. Obviously, this attorney by the name of Paul Arrington.
Oh, we've had Paul on the show. He's a
we
great
have.
guy, yeah.
And you, of course. So who else would you consider kind of a linchpin?
Well,
in this
if
deal?
it wasn't for my engineer, Craig Adams, none of this would happen. I am not smart enough to pull off all the engineering feats. Basically, Craig he started coming around the house back when he was like 16 years old, and the smartest guy you will ever meet. He knows more stuff about more stuff than anybody I have ever met. My dad was pretty hyper-focused on rockets and, pretty well-rounded, but man, Craig is just into everything. And ever since I like to say he built everything my dad designed post-Knievel. And from the time he was in his, late teens, early 20s, he was building some major stuff for my dad and providing very good engineering input. And, I have got boxes of technical data that my dad had left over from the Sky Cycle project. And we'd had to start all over if it wasn't for Craig. He's the only one that can decipher my dad's chicken scratchings, all his, technical hieroglyphs. And, if it wasn't for Craig, we wouldn't be here. And Eddie's got a great a money manager, producer named Steve Golubiowski. And gosh, Eddie has brought the A-team to this project. And, it was just a perfect marriage. When Eddie contacted me, it was back in January when I had first put up our Facebook page, he said, who do you got flying your rocket? And I'm like, well, nobody at the moment. I got to fly your rocket. And, I've heard that before. I got a call from Ed Beckley.
If you had a dime for every
yeah.
time someone said that to you,
Yeah. Ed who?
Probably have $3.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I said, okay. He goes, check out my IMDb, and you'll know, it'll give you an idea who I am. And so I did, and called him right back, and knew he was for real. You look, and he's just. It's just like there's not a single movie in Hollywood with stunts in it that he hasn't done.
Yeah.
And we got to talking, and as soon as he told me that story about meeting Evel Knievel, I knew that he was the guy that I wanted, because I didn't want somebody that was going to use this as a vehicle to promote themselves.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rare when you're dealing with daredevil personality type people. And Eddie does not like to be called a daredevil. I made that mistake once or twice. I'm a stunt man.
Yeah.
Well, there is a difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking daredevils. They're fun to watch.
Right.
But I don't know if you can be a daredevil for 30 years and do what Eddie does over and over and over again, and still live to tell the tale.
And can still walk upright.
Yeah.
And he also has, you have Gary Davis on your team, who I found out was the stuntman for Evel Knievel.
Yeah, he did. He was a contemporary of Evel's back in the day, and another A-team guy.
Yeah, it said he has a degree in engineering, a degree in physics,
Yeah.
and these guys are not amateurs; they are pros, and
They're
they've
not
done this
yahoos.
for years. Yeah. So, how excited are you that this just all came together?
It hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
If only through persistence. I mean, I started this in 2008, and it's been a slog. I mean, from every phase of the project has been a fight. And if it wasn't for just my dumb old persistence, it would many times it would have been very easy to just walk away and say that I can't do this. But really, the key was meeting Eddie and it takes a partnership where the two partners are bringing equal amounts to the table, and he really kicked it up a notch.
Wow.
And your dad was a NASA scientist, right?
He wasn't a NASA scientist. Actually, it was my dad and Werner von Braun that had suggested to the higher ups in the government to start
NASA. Okay.
He never worked for it. Knievel used to like to say, "This is my NASA scientist, Bob Truax," but he never was.
Well, we'll be right back with Scott Truax, who's not a rocket scientist, but pretty close, right?
But I play one on TV.
That's right, or on the radio. We'll be right back. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Just wanted to remind you that Far More of Idaho does these overflights. Now, they don't fly over your fields in any kind of a skyrocket, but they do fly over them with an airplane, and then they take.
That's boring.
I know, yeah, right.
Why not a rocket?
But it does get the job done.
Yeah.
They take the pictures with infrared photography so that you can see your fields, see how they're doing from the air. And what little I have flown in the past, when you fly around the valley in the summertime, everything looks different, way different from the air. You look down on the fields and the things that look lush and green from the road. You get up above and you see them and say, boy, there's a dry spot there. Well, it's good to know these things, and then you can do something about it by making some changes into your irrigation system. So that's what they do. So ask them about Infrared Barren at Far More of Idaho. Tell them that you want to be able to see your fields from the air. They'll upload the information to your computer. You can look at it. You can make the necessary adjustments, and they can help you out with that. Far More of Idaho at 324-3341 or farmoreofidaho.com. Okay, so Scott Truax is with us, the mule in the Snake River Canyon jump.
The whipping boy.
The whipping boy.
I was thinking if they flew a rocket, the pictures would be blurry.
That'd probably be true. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know though. We could get off on the photography.
All right,
now.
Boys, come on,
Stay focused
come on.
So what happens when I was here for the Evel Knievel's jump? There were two ways of thinking. He'll either make it or he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And when he didn't make it and he didn't die, it was kind of like, oh, I never thought of that.
Because some people said they saw him go over. We had callers who say they thought, oh my gosh, he died.
Yeah, and I wasn't here. I was there, so I was actually I watched it as it went down right on the edge of the river, there on the south edge of the river, and they got him out and everything was fine. But at any rate, what happens if this trip across the river is not successful? Are you going to try it again?
Well, assuming Eddie's still alive, if he's alive and we have the money to do it, it's like climbing halfway up Mount Everest.
Right.
Oh, that didn't work.
Okay.
So give up, huh?
Yeah, can't do that. I mean, in fact, that's kind of why we're here. It was started by our heroes, 40 years ago, and who can let that lie?
Yeah.
You gotta finish what you started.
So this isn't just an attempt. This is a quest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved Evel's. They asked him, are you going to do this again? This is a month or so after, and he said, it's very real. He said, I'm a motorcycle jumper, not a sky cycle jumper, and I don't feel that I don't feel particularly defeated or anything. And I thought, well, I think it's just such an absolutely frightening. If you've ever stood on the original ramp and looked out across that amazing canyon and then thought this is a 25-inch diameter aluminum tube.
Yeah.
And you're going to be nearly 3,000 feet in the air and almost a mile downrange. Tell me that's not the most frightening thing you could ever imagine.
What did he say to your dad the next day? I'm sure they must have spoken after it because your dad obviously was there.
They were actually good friends for a while after. I have all these documents that I've poured over for this project. My dad didn't throw anything away, and but you look at him, I think, how did he have time to do anything but write documents?
Yeah.
But he built a vehicle called the Jet Cycle after in 75, 76, and it was a jet powered trike. And it was so cool. Was
that your toy?
I wish. I wish we'd been able to keep it. It's Evel's son Kelly has it in a warehouse.
Oh, really?
And I've been bugging him. Man, you got to get that thing running again. Let's go ride it in Evel Knievel days.
Yeah.
But so they were friends. They had a good relationship.
Did they talk about what happened with the jump? I mean, and they definitely pinned it to the parachute.
Yeah, right after Evel thought he had a dead man's handle where he lets go and the parachute fires off, but that's not what happened. And so yeah, right after, if you watch the interview, my dad tells him, "No, you didn't do it. It was malfunction." And it's just something that you build something as complex as a rocket, and in this particular situation, it had to work the first time.
Yeah.
And it is rocket science.
So you think you guys have figured out the flaw?
Yeah, we're very confident. We've completely a whole new technology has emerged in parachutes.
Think about it.
That's what we're using. We've got a guy named John Dunham runs a company called Second Chance Aviation. He builds what they call ballistic chutes. These are they're either powered by little rockets that pull the parachute out really fast. And so we're actually doing a parachute test in the next couple of weeks where we strap the back of the rocket that houses the parachute, so we run it down the runway at the airport and fire the parachute off just to make sure that it goes. So we have a little bit more time, a little bit more knowledge, and a little bit more money to do the testing that needs to be done. And the big thing is the knowledge, though. I mean, we know what worked and we know what didn't work. So
things had changed in 40 years.
They have.
The technology, yeah.
And anybody that's worried about what happened 40 years ago, what was that? Things have changed in 40 years?
Things have changed, Scott. Well, we wish you guys the best.
Yeah, and you got all the permits. You could go today if everything was ready.
Hey, I brought you guys a present.
Oh.
All right. I tell you what, we can do this on video because we are doing it on video, but we got the Huckabee Report right now. So as soon as you hang tight there, and we'll be right back after the Huckabee Report with Scott Truax. And you can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed, Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger, financial advisors, 736-6563.
And before we get back to Scott, I have to tell you about the UPS store. Did you know you can rent a mailbox?
I love the UPS store.
And especially because you'd moved here, and sometimes in moving, you don't have the right address. Go to the UPS store, rent a mailbox. If you tell them that Joe or Kelly sent you, you'll receive 1, 2, or 3 additional months free, depending on the length of the lease that you choose. So go to the UPS store, corner of Blue Lakes and Addison. While you're there, you can print, you can ship, you can copy. You can buy cute little animal cards for all your friends and family. Did you know that, Scott?
I did not know that.
They're
That's
selling
so
a ton
handy.
of them.
I buy a lot of animal cards for those I love.
And they're open on Saturday, so you can make copies and pack and ship on Saturday.
You probably do a lot of shipping in and out, don't you?
And I use the UPS store a lot.
Yeah,
wow,
there you
so
go.
they're great.
They have good hours. They're open Saturdays.
That's
and
right.
It is nice, isn't it?
And we could talk politics with, what's his name over
Charles.
there? Charles,
yeah.
that's right.
Charles. I heard he's a liberal. Anyway, corner of Blue Lakes and Addison. Tell Charles and the crew Jill said hi, and Kelly and Scott. If he's listening, I'll hear about it next time I go in there.
You bet you will.
Just checking, Charles. Just checking.
He's one of those commie libs.
Wow.
I'm kidding, Charles. Anyway.
Okay, when we went into the Huckabee Report, you pulled something out of a bag over here. It looks very interesting.
My traveling bag. I'm getting ready to go to Butte, Montana after this and go to Evel Knievel Days. If you've never been to Evel Knievel Days, you should go to Evel Knievel Days. It is so much fun.
What happens there?
Well, what happens there stays there.
Okay.
Lots of drunken no, just kidding. It's like a street fair with rides with a very with a Daredevil theme. You've got guys jumping motorcycles. There's a huge rally around town where it's like 500 motorcycles just drives around town, and not just like it's not just a Harley thing, or there's everything from dirt bikes to street bikes to everything, and it's just all night party. It's just
has it been going on since the jump, or how long?
No, I think they started in 2002, 2004,
So
something
it's
like
just-
that.
Well, we are just about
yeah,
out of time.
so show us because
here.
I'm excited. Hold it
These-
up to the camera so people can see.
Hey, viewers, there's
Very
our
cool.
T-shirts that are available. You can contact me through Facebook if you're interested.
Are you selling them, Scott?
I'm trying to.
How much are
This
they?
one's yours.
Well, bless you.
$20.
Thank you so much.
right,
I
yeah.
love
So much.
it. I'll
Thanks
wear it
for
at the
having us.
gym.
And we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes,
Sounds
definitely.
good.
Keep in touch. We wish you the
Yes.
best of luck. I'm excited. Can't
you.
wait to
Scott
see it.
Truax and Eddie Braun. It's been fun, and again, we'll talk to you.
Return to Snake River.
Yeah, tomorrow's Friday.
Can't believe it.
We'll be talking to Alex Sinclair tomorrow about the economy. It's
Oh,
going to be
yes.
interesting.
Right.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal.